So Season 6 is officially here in Fortnite Battle Royale, and because of that, I wanted to go ahead and give a lucky subscriber of mine the Season 6 Battle Pass for absolutely free. So if you guys would like to win the Season 6 Battle Pass, make sure that you guys drop a like, subscribe, let me know in the comment section below that you want this Battle Pass, and go ahead and click the very top link in the description below to go ahead and complete the final instructions, which can be found over on my Twitter. Best of luck, and let's get started with today's video. What's up, guys? My name is Brandon. You guys can call me Swifterrs, and welcome back to a brand new Fortnite video here on my channel. Today I am coming at you guys with a super exciting video, because in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a ton of brand new myths here in Season 6 of Fortnite. Now, as I'm sure most of you guys already know, earlier this morning, Epic Games introduced Season 6 here into Fortnite, and because of that, there are a ton of new things that were introduced into the game, a ton of pre-existing things that were changed or modified just a bit. Regardless, I thought that in today's video, we would take a look at a ton of myths that myself and hopefully you guys have regarding all of the new things that just came to Fortnite earlier this morning. Now, I really would love to turn myth-busting videos into a series here on my channel, so let me know if you guys would be interested in a brand new Fortnite myth-busting series here on my channel, and if you guys are, let me know in the comment section below what sort of myths you guys would like to see on the next episode. With all of that being said, let's get started with today's video, taking a look at some new myths here in Season 6. So to go ahead and take a look at our first myth in today's video, I wanted to go ahead and see what would happen if I drove an ATK into the giant storm or the giant tornado water hurricane that can be seen in the middle of Loot Lake. As you guys know, with the release of Season 6, Loot Lake was modified to a great extent, and obviously this is the remnants of what we now have. The entire Loot Lake house has been lifted up all the way to the top, and in order to actually get all the way up to the top of the Loot Lake house, you guys actually need to jump inside of the middle of the storm circle, which can be found in a Loot Lake. So as you guys can see, I made myself a beautiful little roadway or a pathway that I could drive my ATK across into the very center of the hurricane on Loot Lake. Now, again, I don't really know what to call this thing. I don't know if it's a tornado, I don't know if it's a storm or a hurricane, so let me know in the comment section below what you guys think this giant thing in the center of Loot Lake is. Regardless, it is a major map change that Epic Games introduced with the release of Season 6, but of course, I wanted to go ahead and see what would happen if I drove an ATK into the center. So, as you guys can see, the ATK was swooped up by this storm, and honestly, it was really hard to control this thing while I was navigating inside. I was actually trying my best to make my way on top of where the Loot Lake house is. Obviously, I was unable to do so, but as you guys can see, I got over 400,000 trick points, so I wanted to go ahead and drive right into the lake again. And as you guys can see, if you make your way from those little campgrounds, you guys can actually drive right in without having to get stuck in the water. But of course, you guys can see that if you take an ATK into the very center of Loot Lake, it will cause the ATK alongside your character to completely fly and get a ton of trick points. So moving on to our next myth, I wanted to go ahead and see what would happen if you consumed a Shadow Stone and you tried to drive an ATK. So as you guys can see, I just consumed the Shadow Stone, I entered the Shadow Realm, and I went over to my ATK over here, and I wanted to go ahead and see if I could drive it. And as you guys can see, even when you guys are in the Shadow Realm, you guys can still actually drive an ATK. Now, I'm gonna be honest, guys, when I tried to do this myth, I was really unsure as to what would happen. I honestly did not think it was going to work. I was under the impression that when you guys were in the shadow mode, you guys weren't actually able to do all that much aside from simply move around and phase through different objects. However, it actually looks like you guys can control an ATK. You guys have free reign over it, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe you may not actually take any damage while you guys are in the shadow realm or in shadow mode while you guys are in an ATK, but you guys are more than welcome to try this out for yourself. So moving on to our next myth, this is another one with the shadow stones. So what I wanted to go ahead and see was what would happen if you used a shadow stone and you tried to go through a rift. So as you guys can see, I'm over by the retail row shadow realm area. I picked up a shadow stone and I'm making my way over to the rifts. Now I was really unsure as to what exactly would happen. Again, I was pretty much under the impression that when you were in the shadow mode, you weren't really able to do anything, but as you guys can see, I was able to actually hop into a rift. And as you guys just saw, when I hit the ground, I did not take any damage. Obviously, being in the shadow mode allows you guys to be unable to take out any sort of glider, whether it's an umbrella or even a glider. But of course, I was able to hit the ground safely and clearly no damage was taken. I'm able to run around, so it does look like even though you consume a shadow stone and have entered the shadow realm, you guys can still actually use rifts. So with this next myth, I wanted to mess around with the traffic radar gauge, which can be found on the right hand side of the map close to the speedway. Now it's pretty common knowledge that this radar gauges how fast your character or other things in the game are going. As you guys just saw, our character was moving at approximately 12 miles per hour, and I assume it's miles per hour just because I live here in the United States. But of course, 12 miles per hour is pretty fast for our character to be running. I also wanted to go ahead and see what would happen if you impulsed your way into the traffic radar. Would the speed of our character increase anyway? And it looks like it did, all the way up to 57 miles per hour. Now, I thought that was pretty awesome, and what I wanted to do next was see if our character, while he's in the shadow mode, could be tracked by the traffic radar. So I grabbed a shadow stone, I hopped in an ATK, I quickly drove over to the radar, and I ran and I phased all the way up to the traffic radar. And as you guys can see, I was actually able to get up to 18 miles per hour, which is only 6 miles per hour greater than our character regularly runs at. And I was honestly a little bit surprised because I feel like when you're in the shadow mode, you go significantly faster than if you're just running regularly. But I guess you do go a little bit faster, but not by much. But again, it was a pretty interesting myth that I wanted to go ahead and try out for myself. So moving on to our next set of myths, I wanted to go ahead and see what would happen if you jumped on a jump pad while you guys were in the shadow mode. So as you guys can see, I placed myself a jump pad down, I grabbed myself a shadow stone, and I wanted to see if our character would actually be able to jump high on a jump pad. First and foremost, it looks like it actually worked. I was really unsure as to whether or not I would actually be able to jump on the jump pad while I was in the shadow mode, but it looks like you actually can, and you actually go significantly higher in the shadow mode while on a jump pad than if you were just jumping on the jump pad regularly. On top of that, you guys can see my character was glitching out just a little bit while I was trying to use the jump pad for a second time, and that's actually because while I was jumping on the jump pad, I tried to phase through it. As you guys know, if you hit one of the triggers, you guys can actually phase through objects like I just did. So I tried to do that while I jumped on the jump pad, and it obviously glitched it out just a little bit. But as you guys can see, even in the shadow mode, you guys can still use the jump pads, which I think is pretty awesome. Continuing on to our next myth, I wanted to see what would happen if I used a shadow stone, entered the shadow realm, and tried to get into the hurricane or the storm over by Loot Lake. I was really unsure as to what exactly would happen. Would it allow me to go into the hurricane? Would I actually be able to go under the black hole in the center of Loot Lake? I wanted to see what would happen, and it looks like even though you guys are in the shadow mode, you guys will still be swept up by the hurricane. And for those of you who don't know, if you run into the giant cube under the Loot Lake house, it actually bounces you out all the way to the bottom. But of course, as you guys can see, even while in shadow mode, you guys can pretty much do anything that you were able to do while you guys weren't in shadow mode, aside from accessing all of your materials and all of your inventory items. Moving on to our final myth for today's video, I wanted to see what would happen if you threw items into the very center of the storm. Again, I wasn't too sure what would happen. I was unsure as to whether or not these items would be swept up by the storm or if they would actually go into the hole. And as you guys can see, as you throw items into the very center, the storm actually sweeps them up and the items activate mid-air. So again, as you guys saw, the grenades seem to explode mid-air, and as I threw these impulse grenades in, they also seem to activate mid-air, or as they were going up through the storm circle or through this hurricane. Overall, it's pretty cool to watch all of your throwable items get swept up by this hurricane in the center of Loot Lake. But of course, it was a pretty interesting myth, and I wanted to try it out for myself to see what would happen. So guys, there you have it. Those were a ton of brand new myths here in Season 6 of Fortnite. Let me know in the comments section below if there are any other myths you guys would like me to test out throughout the duration of Season 6. And if you guys would like me to turn this video idea into a series here on my channel. Regardless guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new. With all of that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be sure to catch you guys later.